Extreme Collectibles here with a very interesting piece. This is truly two of a kind, I think. I think there's two out there like this because I stole this idea from someone else. But very excited to review this piece. It's one of my favorites, and every time I review a piece, I love it more and more. So let's let the lovin' begin. Extreme Collectibles here with a custom quarter scale Magneto statue. This is a very popular piece. It flips for a lot of money, and as you can see, this has been repainted. If you haven't figured that out already, this used to be Magneto's red and purple colors. Now he's black and gray. This piece, I don't know what the original retail was on it. It's been out for a while. It's one of the most popular pieces out there. It flips right now for about $2,000 to $2,500. So I purchased it. I think I got it around $1,700. Got a pretty good deal on such an expensive piece. And then I had a master painter. Give a shout out to Jason Felder. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, even though I talk to you all the time. That's horrible. But anyway, who did just an amazing job on this piece. I just had him repaint Magneto and the helmeted heads, but he did a fantastic job. I'm a big Magneto fan. He's one of my top 5 favorites, so I have about, I don't even know how many. I'll probably end up having about 10 Magneto statues. This is definitely one of the best without a doubt. This one, I don't know the ES. Someone probably knows off the top of their head, and I don't want to lift this because it's too heavy. So just let me know. And I think there were 2 different batches, if I recall correctly. And part of it is because there is a leaning issue, just the way the peg is here. So it's good to have support. I don't have it for the purpose of this video to make it more look like the flying effect. But this is a very difficult statue to put together. So first of all, there's tons and tons of different pieces on the base, from some post-tension cables to helmets to skulls to all the above that you'll see when we do the review. And then Magneto himself is one piece minus his helmet. His cape is very heavy. You have to get it on just right with his collar right here, which even mine doesn't flush down all the way. And then there's metal pieces throughout that you have to pretty much put where you can. The directions aren't the best, unfortunately. I think newer statues from this company, if they need directions, they have better directions. And then you have actual barbed wire along the back. That's very difficult to put in. So very difficult to put together, but it's definitely worth it with such a great piece. I also have the XM Studios White Magneto coming. So I think these two will look awesome right next to each other, and I can't wait to get that and do the review on that guy. So he does come with 4 switch outs, 4 different heads. This first one is the masked open eyes. Then he has a masked with, the whited out eyes, kind of the power. And then here's some photos from Facebook because mine are in the warehouse, but we have unmasked. And the reason I don't have those out anymore is I always want to display them completely black. So once you go black, concept and design is super, super cool on this. So first of all, I think the time period for this, based on the helmets, is early on in Magneto's career, maybe in the 50s, 60s, maybe Vietnam. A little bit later, I don't know, because there's some soldier helmets, but he's kind of almost in what has become a graveyard of either people he's killed or people that are in there. And he's flying above. This is one of the best flying poses for Magneto, using his power, raising stuff up, obviously the different metal pieces. It's really, really cool. And his face is very serious. He's all about showing off his power. The engineering of this statue, the concept is great, but man, the engineering is awesome, how they were able to make it look like this. The cape flowing in the wind, it looks like he's actually flying. So I think that's one of the reasons this is one of the most popular Magneto statues to date. It's just excellent. So with all that being said, I talked about some potential lean issues or some, the collar not going in all the way. Some of those are things that just kind of come with the game when you make a statue this complicated and this ambitious. So props to the people who made it, but I think they did a fantastic job with the concept. I think they pulled it off the best you can, and it'll always make this what people call a grail piece. One other thing about the concept and design, I think the base is too big. It just commands too much real estate. I think they could have pulled it off much smaller. Don't get me wrong, I love the base and I love everything about it, but I think from a space standpoint, because space is our enemy as collectors, that this could have been smaller. And she didn't say that. And speaking of the base, look at that segue. It's so much going on here, not only from a sculpt perspective of the different stones that are being uprooted to the iron beams, to the pieces of metal, the skulls, the helmets. I can't even imagine what's going on. On the front, there's almost some type of cape or sheet there's so much going on here, it's hard to describe. You see the rocks, you see the rubble, and I think the sculpt is fantastic. I think there's a few opportunities for paint, especially with the dirt, but otherwise the paint looks great. And there's like 500 different colors, so I'm really just showing you pictures instead of trying to describe it, because words can't really describe how much is going on here. And then moving to the concrete pillars in the back, excellent job on these. Not only the sculpt, they look real, there's some great texture to it, there's some wear. Some of the pictures you see the tension cables, the posts inside of them, and they look rusted and torn up. Really good job. And then Magneto, so obviously this is a custom paint job, and there's only 2 of these that I know of that are painted black. So more just talk about the sculpt. This is by a fantastic sculptor. Give him a shout out, Daniel Bell. I have the new Thor he did, the new Daredevil, the Captain America, I think a few other pieces. And I really like his style. He knows anatomy very well, and this is no exception with this. Starting at, Magneto's, first of all, there's standard boots. There's some cool folds that he sculpted into there. I like the shin guards up front. The paint, again, not focusing too much on it because this is one of a kind, but I really like how he implemented the silver tip and heel, and then he added some discoloring to almost show the wear and tear to kind of go along with the statue on that silver aspect of it. And then moving up to his thighs, again, great job on the costume. It's tight, but you can see the folds in it. You can see the seam lines. And he didn't go too crazy muscular on Magneto. I have quite a few Magneto statues and a lot more coming. And some of them, the musculature on him is too much, because to me Magneto, it looks really cool, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing those statues, it looks really cool, but to me Magneto's not a muscular guy. I mean, realistically, he doesn't have to lift weights, he can lift them with his mind. So I think this is more true to the real Magneto. And there's some great texture in there, especially on the inside of his thighs right below his package. And his package isn't overdone. I like to talk about packages. That's what she said. His package isn't overdone, but the outside of his underwear kind of follows that same lines of the pants. Some great sculpt in the folds and the seams. And really quick, going back, one of the things I didn't talk about, his shin guards, the back of the buckles look really cool. Not only the sculpt of it, but I think the master painter did a great job with the repaint. Then Magneto's belt, really not a lot to this, but again, I do like how the master painter didn't make it a clean silver, clean metal color. There's some black that's faded in there. Next, I want to jump to Magneto's cape, because this is the star of the show. So first of all, you can see the magnitude of this cape, how large it is, how complicated the sculpt and the flow. And again, as you dive in closer, and I don't know how well the camera is going to show it, but there's some folds in there to make it look like a real cape. I mean, this looks like a mixed media cape flying in the wind, and how the engineering of this is able to keep it up. Just fantastic sculpt on the cape. And while I'm talking about that, some of these metal pieces that are in his cape and his thigh, really good job. A lot of wear and tear. There's some cool texture and detail right on them that they could have overlooked and they didn't. And the paint, and this is the original paint, just pops. I love the colors on it. It's so rustic, it's so worn. They did a really good job. Then moving up to Magneto's torso, this is where you do see some of that musculature that he didn't have in his legs, but again, it's not overbearing. And I really like the different fabric type sculpt they use, both down the middle where his six-pack is, and then also on the sides. It's like that textured material on the inside of his thighs. Really, really cool, and the paint just pops, and it's not just black in there, it looks like some silver that the master painter added. And again, that costume continues to show, you know, his muscles and the folds, and that doesn't stop with his forearms either. Really great anatomy on his forearms, and he sculpted the costume around it very well. So you can still see the costume, you can still see the forearms, or the biceps. And then on his forearms, sorry, these are his forearms, he has very similar to his shin pads, kind of those gauntlets. Again, looks really cool with some buckles in them to hold them together. And the paint just follows like it does the rest of the statue. Great job on his hands too. They're gloved, but you can still see the folds in the glove, and good proportion on the hands from the sculpt. And then his collar, not a lot to this, more the paint job makes it pop really well. I really appreciate that. And then the sculpt on the face is really good. I know the paint on the original faces wasn't the best, it was okay, but obviously this being done by a master painter, it just looks phenomenal. And that doesn't stop with, you know, around the eyes and his eyebrows and his lips, but the sculpt really helps it. It brings it to life. And then his helmet, of course, I really like how they made, the painter made the helmet a little shinier, but not too shiny. For example, the new Sideshow Magneto maquette, I have that. I think the helmet is too dull. I would never display it with the helmet because it looks weird. But so fantastic job both by the commissioning company, the sculptor, and then the master painter. I love this piece. I will probably never part with it unless someone offers me lots and lots of money. But it's a very cool piece. If you ever have the opportunity to see one or even pick up a original painted one, do it. It's one of the best Magneto statues out there. I don't think it's the best, but it's definitely in that range. So I really appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think of not only the statue, but the paint job, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Take care.